Welcome to Math with Mr. P. Today we're focusing on 6th grade, Chapter 3, Lesson 5. What will we learn today? To use estimation to find the number of digits in a quotient and to divide each place value. So today's lesson is going to be focusing on dividing multi-digit numbers. So for an example, we have 240 divided by 80. Now, how would we do this without knowing, the proper steps? When we have a multi-digit number like 80 and 20, if it will let me draw, there we go. In this case, we can just kind of ignore the 0, and then we can do 8 into 24, which is 3. This is one of the shortcuts that we can use when both numbers end in 0, because otherwise we'd have to guess and check how many times 80 would go into 240, but if we use this method to erase the zeros, we will know that it would be 3. But before we get into that, let's go into the correct vocabulary. The quotient first. Quotient is the number that is the answer to a division problem. So our quotient would be 3 in this case. Dividend and divisor. The dividend is the number that is being divided, which would be 240. And the divisor is the number that we are dividing by, which is 80. It's very important that we add these into our vocab terms, and you know this because in the test, some of the word problems will be asking what is the divisor, what is the dividend, what is the quotient, or they will give you a math problem in word form where they don't even set it up, where they may say that 240 is the dividend, or they'll be ask you, what is the quotient when 240 is the dividend and 80 is the divisor? And they don't give you anything other than those words. So it's very important that we practice and understand the differences between those three. So once again, as a recap, quotient is the answer to a division problem, dividend is the number being divided, and divisor is the number that we are dividing by. So one quick example. 10 divided by 5 would equal 2. Now, let's go ahead and practice. Quotient. The quotient would be 2 in this case, the answer to a division problem. The dividend would be 10, the number being divided, and the divisor would be 5, the number that we are dividing by. Real world link. When you are at rest, it takes about 60 seconds for a single blood cell to travel around your body and back to your heart. In 120 seconds, about how many times does a single blood cell travel around your body and back to your heart? Write the dividend, divisor, and quotient in the diagram below. So, given the information that we have, we're trying to figure out how many times would a single blood cell travel around our body and back to our heart in 120 seconds. 120 would be our dividend, our number we're going to be dividing. The number we're dividing by would be 60, or our divisor. The reason why it's 60 is because it takes 60 seconds for a blood cell to travel around your body and back to your heart. If it takes 60 seconds for this to happen, how many times would it happen in 120 seconds? So we're dividing 120 by 60. Our answer will be our quotient. Now, we're going to go back to what we learned at the beginning of the video, because unless you know how many times 60 will go into 120, this is going to be a guess and check. But because both numbers end in 0, I'm going to go ahead and ignore these zeros for now. And this now becomes 12 divided by 6. And this is a little easier. I know that 12 divided by 6, or what times 6 would equal 12, is 2. Therefore, 2 will go in, or 60 will go into 120 twice. And 2 would be our quotient. And then I can go ahead and unmark the zeros. And then you can always check your work. 60 times 2 should equal 120. I don't know why it just made me do that. All right, 60 times 2 should be 120. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 6 is 12. 120. Therefore, I know that my answer is correct. My quotient is 2. So again, as a recap for vocab, dividend is the number we are dividing. Divisor is the number we're dividing by. And quotient is the answer to a division problem. Now, when we divide by 3-digit dividends, in this lesson you will divide multi-digit numbers. Use estimation to help you place the first digit in the quotient. So, for example, we've got 351 divided by 9. If we round up 351 to about 360, we're going to go ahead and ignore the 0 on the 360. We know that 9 times 4 is 36, so we're going to go automatically put the 4 down, but because we only got rid of 1 0 this time, we need to bring that 0 back. So I probably just confused a lot of us, but let's go ahead and break this down slowly. 360. We rounded up 350 to a number we could easily divide by 9, which is 36. We are still dividing it by 9 instead of rounding up the 9. 36, we know 6 times 4 equals 36. So I kind of ignore this 0. If that would equal 4 times, 9 times 4 would equal 36. If I add the 0 back into the equation, I need to add a 0 back over here. Therefore, 9 times 40 should equal 360. And we can check our work. 40, which was our answer, times 9 should equal 360, and it does. And the same rules apply. 360 divided by 9 should be 40, and it is. Another way to look at it is this way. We're waiting for Microsoft Whiteboard to open. We'll do a new whiteboard. 360 divided by 9. This is another way of doing this problem, and we're going to check to make sure this is, there we go. 9 cannot go into 3. 9, however, can go into 36, and we know that it goes into 36 4 times, which will equal 36. If I subtract 36 from 36, I'm going to get 0. But what happens to this other 0? I can't bring it in, so it goes up here. My answer is 40. This is another way of solving this problem. So 9 will go into 360 40 times. We would need to divide each place value position from left to right. So that was our estimate, but now we're going to actually do the math. So let's go ahead and take what is given to us here, and let's do it on our digital whiteboard. 351 divided by 9. Now, 9 will not go into 3 like we did before, but how many times will 9 go into 35? This is where we're going to count by 9s. I know 9 times 1 is 9, 9 times 2 is 18, 9 times 3 is 27, and 9 times 4 is 36. So it's not going to be 4, it's going to have to be 3, which will equal 27. It can't be 4 times because 36 is bigger than 35. So 9 will go to 35 3 times, and I will subtract. I can't do 7 minus 5. Therefore, I will borrow from this 3 and make it a 2. My 5 will become 15. 15 minus 7 will be 8. And 2 minus 2 will be 0, and I cancel that 0 out. My next step is now to bring down the other number, which is the 1. 9 will go into 81 9 times, which will equal exactly 81, and I'll have nothing left over. Therefore, 351 divided by 9 should equal 39. And remember, as always, you have a calculator on your device to check. 351, I believe, was the original one. Yes, divided by 9 will equal 39. So we did this correct. So this is an easy way of dividing multi-digit numbers. Let me go ahead and erase and kind of explain this little by little. we always look at the first number, 9 going into 3. 9 cannot go into 3 because 3 is a smaller number than 9, so we just skip that and we bring the other digit into it. So now we look at what 9 can go into 3 and 5, which is 35. This is where we know 9 can fit in, but 9 only fits in there 3 times because 3 times 9 is 27. 4 times 9 is 36, which is too big for 35. This is where we get our 27 from. When we subtract again, we have to borrow from the 3. 15 minus 7 is 8. 2 minus 2 is 0, and I just draw the line through it so I know the 0 is not in play. The 1 will come down, and now 9 will go into 81. The reason why I bring down the 9 is, or the 1 is because 9 cannot go into 8. And if you ever have something where this number can still go into what's left over, we may have made a mistake. This number should always be less than the divisor. So if it's not, there is a mistake. So 9 cannot go into 8. I bring down the 1. 9 goes into 81 9 times, which equals 81. And I have nothing left over. Hence my answer is 39. Now, we're going to go ahead and do this one as an example because we're not going to get a perfect answer at the end, if you notice. 887 divided by 31. So again, 878, sorry. 878, and I believe it's being divided by 31, but I'm going to double check before I do my work. It is being divided by 31. So when you have multi-digits on the outside, I can't do 1 by 1. I have to do 31 going into each number. 31 clearly will not go into 8, so I will look and see what 31 will go into 87. Now, I'm going to guess and check. I know that twice 30 is 60, and if I add another 30 to it, it's going to be 90. So it's probably not going to be 3 times. It's probably only going to be twice. 31 times 2. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. So this is twice. If I add one more 31, I'm definitely going to be over my 87. 2 plus 1 is 3, and 6 plus 3 is 9. So it's not 3 times, it's going to be 2 times, which will be 62. So 31 will go into 87 twice, which will make 62. I subtract. 7 minus 2 will give me 5. 8 minus 6 will give me 2. 31 cannot go into 25, therefore I will bring down my 8. This is where we're going to have to do some guessing and checking, and we're going to have to do some mental math. 31 is close to 30. 258 is we would probably round it down to 25. How many times, or 250 I should say. This is where we're going to go ahead and ignore the zeros and think, how many times do we think 3 can go into 25? Now, I know 3 times 8 equals 24. So let's guess and check to see what 31 times 8 would be. And see if we're anywhere close. 31 times 8. 8 times 1 would be 8. And 8 times 3 would be 24. Now, I already know right off the bat, if I add 31 more to this, I'm definitely going to be over my 258 mark. Therefore, I am going to go with 8. Now, sometimes when we guess and check, we may not be this close. I got really lucky because I used my mental math. But if I get somewhere lower, the next thing I could do, let's say I guessed and I didn't know, and I said 5. Let's just say I guessed 5. 5 times 1 would be 5. 5 times 3 is 15. I'm way off. Now, I could go and multiply by 6, multiply by 7, multiply by 8, keep going, or another way to do this is just adding 31 each time so that I know that this is now times 6. 5. Ooh, nope, didn't want that. 5 plus 1 is 6. 5 plus 3 is 8. 1 plus nothing is 1, so this would be 6. I would add another 31 and keep going until I got to 8, where it is 258. So, guessing and checking are exactly just that. Guessing, you guess what number you think it will go into it to get close to it, and you check. And there's no hidden meaning there with that name. Now, I need to put in what this equals. So again, 31 times 8, since I did this earlier, 8 times 1 is 8, 8 times 3 is 24, will equal 248. When I subtract, 8 minus 8 will be 0, 5 minus 4 will be 1, 2 minus 2 will be 0. I have 10 left over. Now, there are a few ways to do this. 31 will not go into 10. Therefore, I can write this, like the textbook says, as a remainder 10, or R10. Now, in 6th grade, we don't really do a lot of remainders. Now, remainders will be here for now in this chapter, but in the future, we don't deal with remainders. So what we would do is, since 31 can't go into 10, I'm going to do a different color, we'd add a 0, but before we do that, we'd have to put a decimal. Now I can divide 31 into 100 and keep going, and I'll have a decimal answer. 31, I believe, can go into 100 roughly 3 times, because I know 30 times 3 would be 90, and if I added another one, it would be 120. So guessing and checking again. 3 times 3 would be 3. 3 times 1 would be 3. 3 times 3 would be 9, 93. So I'm going to say 3 times 93. If I subtract, I'd get 7, and I'd keep going and going and going. Now, I can check with my calculator to see if it ever ends, because eventually some of these may never end. Divided by 31. And yes, this would be a decimal that repeats and repeats and repeats forever and ever and ever. I could have done just that. Let me go ahead and do the next step. So when I subtract, I have 7 left, correct? 31 would not go into 7, bring another 0 down, and I can bring as many zeros down as I want since I put a decimal already. I know that it's going to go in twice, which would be 62. I'd have 8 left over, and this is where we go ahead and we round. Because this is a 2, this 3 is going to stay as it is, a 3. So I can round it to 28.3, approximately 28.3. But for this scenario, for this chapter, I had 10 left over, as we previously stated. So then I would just do 28 remainder 10. Just be aware, remainders are probably not going to be a thing for much longer because we're going to be dealing with real numbers and we're going to need to have that decimal in there. And don't worry, your questions will tell you if they know it's going to be a million different numbers at the end, they may have you round to the nearest 10th, 100th, thousands, 10,000th, etc. The directions will be in the question for you. Now, we're going to go ahead and do these two, and then we're going to get into 4-digit dividends and how to solve those, and then we will call this a lesson. Now, please be aware of the different types of writings for division problems. In this case, this is the dividend, this is the divisor. 768 divided by 8. In this example, the dividend is on the inside of the box. So this is 318 divided by 16 with the divisor on the outside. So please be aware of the two versions of this. There's actually a third version of division, and it's actually like written as a fraction. So for example, let's just use A. It can be written this way. It can also be written as this, with it in the box with 8 on the outside. And the other way it can be written is with 768 over 8, because a division symbol actually means to divide. Or, sorry, yeah, well, I said it right. Fraction symbol, the division symbol means to divide. A fraction is that. The 2 dots represent different numbers that are not there. So when you see 1/2 as a fraction, this actually means 1 divided by 2. We'll do a quick side note. 1 divided by 2. 2 cannot go into 1, 0 times. Decimal, bring down a 0. 2 goes into 10 5 times, and we're done. This is why 1/2 equals 0.5 as a decimal, or 50%. All fractions are division problems. And hopefully some of us are like, what just happened? And it blew your mind. But that is what it is. So, moving back to getting back on track, please be aware of the 3 different mannerisms or manners that it could be written. Again, it can be written as your standard form of the dividend, then the divisor after the division symbol. It can be written in box form where the dividend is in the inside of the box with the divisor on the outside of the box. And then it can be written in fraction form where the dividend is on top and the divisor is on the bottom. Now that we've gone over this, let's go ahead and do 768 divided by 8. 768 divided by 8. And I'm going to move this down a little bit so we can write our answer towards the top. Now, 8 will not go into 7, but 8 will go into 76. How many times? This is where I'm going to have to recall my multiplication facts. I know that 8 times 8 is 64. And then, let's see. Let's add 8 more to it and see if we go over 76. 4 plus 8 should give me 12. Carry the 1. 6 plus 1 is 7, 72. So this would be 8 times 9 now. And I know if I add 8 more to this, it's going to be 80. So it's not going to be 10. It's going to be 9 times. So 8 can go into 76 9 times, which would equal 72. When I subtract, 6 minus 2 will give me 4. 7 minus 7 will be 0. 8 cannot go into 4. Bring down the 8. Now, if I don't know my 8s very well, I can guess and check. Now, I'm not going to lie. I'm a math teacher, but 8s give me trouble. I'm going to recall my previous knowledge of what I know. So this is how my math brain works. I know that 8 times 3 equals 24. I also know there's 24 hours in a day. I know that 2 days would equal 48 hours. So I would just need to double 3, which would be 8 times 6. 8 times 6 is 48, because I know 24 doubled is 48, so therefore I would double the 3 to make it 6. So this will be 6, this will be 48. When I subtract, I got nothing left over, no remainder. My answer is 96. And as always, let's check. 768 divided by 8 should equal 96. And that's exactly what we got. And let's do 318 divided by 16. 318 divided by 16. And you'll notice I always use the box method when it comes to this because it's just easier for me to write the answers down. Now, 16 will not go into 3. 16 will go into 31 how many times? Now, I know 16 is closer to 15. I know 15 times 2 will be 30. So let's guess and check. Let's see if 16 times 2 will be anything under 31. 2 times 6 is 12. Carry the 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus the 1 is 3, and I'm over. So 16 cannot go into 31. Now we have to figure out how many times 16 will go into 318. Now, we can do a few things. We can just keep guessing and checking, which is totally fine, or we can use our math brains. I'm going to say that 16 is closer to 15, so I'm going to round down to 15. 318, let's make that 300. I know that 15 will go into 30, since I'm rounding this down to 300, so let's see this. 15 can go into 30 twice. But because this is 300, I'm going to add a 0 to this as well. Therefore, let's see what 16 times 20 is, and let's see if we're anywhere near close. That's going to be my justification. I'm going to put the 20 down because I like multiplying by the zeros, and it's going to be easier for me. If you wanted to put the 20 on top and multiply by the 6s, be my guest. But 0 times 6 will be 0. 0 times 1 will be 0. placeholder 0. 2 times 6 now will be 12. Carry the 1. And then 2 times 1 will be 2, plus the 1 will be 3. So I am still over. This was guessing and checking. 16 times 20 gets me over, so now I know that it's going to be 16 times 19. It will go in 19 times. So I'm going to do 16 times 19. 9 times 6 I know is 54. 9 times 1 is 9, plus the 5 is 14. Placeholder 0. I'm going to ignore this 5 I carried over earlier, or I can just erase it. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 1 is 1. When I add these together, I will get 304. So it'll go in 19 times, and it will be 304. I just realized that I did something goofy. I'm going to leave this on the screen, but I'm going to go ahead and pull something up. So this is I want you guys to learn something from this, because I just realized I made a mistake. I made an error. 300, and let me go back and see. Some of you may have already caught it and are going, Mr. Pastor, what are you doing? And I hope you did, because I just caught it. I said 16 couldn't go into 31. And I don't know why I didn't catch this. It could go into 31. And I feel like a fool now, because it can go in one time. If you subtract 16 from it and borrow, this will be 11 minus 6 will be 5. 2 minus 1 will be 1. So now I feel like a complete goofball because I did it this way. I did it the other way, I should say. So 16 can go into 31 one time. And then what I would do is bring down the 8. And now I get to guess and check what this would be. I'm going to use my previous knowledge to know that it's going to go in 9 times, because this is what I did over here. So I feel foolish, but it is what it is. It happens. We all make mistakes. Even your math teacher makes mistakes. 9 times 6 will be 54. Carry the 5. 9 times 1 is 9, plus the 5 will be 14. So it'll go in 9 times, 144. When I subtract, 8 minus 4 is 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. Therefore, it'll be 19, remainder 14. Now, let's see if we did the same thing over here with all the extra guess and check work that we did. It will be 19. 8 minus 4 is 4. 1 minus 0 is 1. 3 minus 3 is 0. Remainder 14. So sometimes it's just paying close attention to what you're doing. I got so wrapped into 16 not being able to go into 31 twice that I didn't realize that 16 could go into it once. But either way, the math was done. So in this case, it will be 19, remainder 14. In the future, though, we would annex a 0 and do a decimal and keep going. But we're not going to do that today. We do not have time for that, and it's not part of our homework. We don't need to have it in decimal form. We can leave it as a remainder. And 4-digit dividends. The steps for dividing 3-digit dividends and 4-digit dividends are the same. So let's give you an example. Let's find this. Okay, this is a good one. I would still set it up the exact same way. Of 6, 4, if this will work, 6, 4, 9, 3, divided by 75. I'm still doing 75. It can't go into 6, so we'll have to figure out if 75 can go into 64. It can't, so I go to the third digit, and 675 will have to figure out how many times it'll go into 649, etc. Now, you're going to have to do this no matter how many digits there are. Especially if your divisor is a 3-digit number, then guess what? You're going to skip all the way to the 3 digits first, the first 3 digits, and see how many times it will go in, etc., etc. So this does not really change much. You still need to divide by the whole divisor on the outside. So it's not 5 can go into 6 or anything like that. It's how many times can 75 go into the number. And again, 75 will not go into 6. can't. 75 cannot go into 64 because 75 is bigger. We'll have to figure out how many times 75 can go into 649 first. And don't make the same mistake I did and then just try to guess and check for the whole thing. I mean, if your math brain works that way, go for it. But I should have done it this way. For time's sake, if we look at what they did figure out that 75 can go into 498 times, which is 600. When they subtract, they had wow. Lucky I'm a math teacher, right? After we subtract 600 from it, it's 49. 75 cannot go into 49, bring down the 3. 75 goes into 493 6 times, which was 450. When we subtracted, we had 43 left over. And again, we're not dealing with decimals, so 43 becomes the remainder. It was 86, remainder 43. Now, looking at our work that we need to do, we have some 4-digit dividends with 2-digit divisors. We have a 3-digit dividend with a 2-digit divisor. So we're looking at roughly 17 questions for this. You should be watching this on a Monday. We will be, this is a Wednesday video for this year. Either way, whatever day you're watching it, we will have 2 days to work on this. You are more than welcome to work on the homework practice if you would like. Otherwise, wait, and we will do it in class together. After this one, we're going to look forward to, I believe we're dividing by decimals, if I'm not mistaken, for lesson 7, because we skipped 6. Lesson 7 is dividing decimals by whole numbers, and I just drew on that instead of erasing. So we will be dividing decimals by whole numbers in the next lesson. Well, that's all the time we have for today. If you have any questions, as always, you can leave a comment down below, or if you're in my class, message me on Teams. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next one.